This is Regis Prograis, #1 in the world, and you listen to the Ringside Boxing Show.
Live from Monterey on California's beautiful Central Coast, this is the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor, welcoming you to join me and my expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwan Zahid, and John J. Responsi, today and every week for the hottest, sweatiest show on the West Coast. And now, from Studio 1A, it's the Ringside Boxing Show.
Welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm Dennis Taylor, and we've got some outstanding stuff coming your way again today. In a short time, we're going to be catching up with a boxing legend whose personal story is one of those amazing tales, one of the most amazing tales probably in the history of the sport. Nate Campbell, the Galaxy Warrior, was a kid who went into foster care at age 7. He attended 15 different schools before he was 17 years old. Never stepped into a boxing ring until he was 24, when he was married, father of 3 kids, and working full-time at a Winn-Dixie warehouse. He added a training regimen to all of that, turned pro at age 28, won his first 23 fights, and then became lightweight champion of the world. In fact, he held 3 lightweight title belts at the same time. There's a whole lot more to this story, and Nate's going to be along very shortly to tell you the whole tale. And you're going to want to stick around for that. Paul McLaughlin, our British correspondent, is back this week. He's going to talk to us about some British heavyweights on the UK boxing scene. And we'll kick it off, as always, with our expert analyst. Travis Hartman, the professional boxer, trainer, and promoter from Osborne, Missouri. He's now living and training in Orlando, Florida. Rizwan Zahid, a boxing journalist from Toronto. And John J. Responsi is chief lead writer for MaxBoxing.com and DogHouseBoxing.com. And John and I are co-authors of an Amazon bestseller, Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward boxing trilogy. We got John and Rizwan with us today. Travis maybe catching up with us in a little bit. He's got something going on. And John right now is on the road. He's traveling from Los Angeles back up to Northern California, which is where we live. He just finished attending the first ever celebration of the National Boxing Hall of Fame, the new National Boxing Hall of Fame, where they inducted Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Michael Carbajal, David Diaz, Montel Griffin, Humberto Chiquita Gonzalez, Lucio Riker, Mike Weaver, Raul Hibaro Perez, and Jack Johnson. John, how much fun was that?
Well, as I was telling you guys off the air, it was just like a dream. You know, if you're a boxing fan and you love this kind of stuff, you feel like you're walking into a living Hall of Fame and museum, because you see so many people and if you're old like us, Dennis, you immediately flash back to when you saw them fight. I've been fortunate enough to be friends with Armando Muniz for years, about 10 years now, and I hadn't seen Armando in, oh my gosh, 3 or 4 years, and he's just about the greatest guy in the world. So hanging out with him, talking to him about his fights and his life, and then of course Randy Shields and myself again are friends. So it's just incredible listening to the speeches. And Mike Weaver was great, and so was Julio, and I'm just so happy because these guys deserve this. I mean, considering what they do in their boxing career, considering how they lay it on the line during all their fight so hard, bleed for us. I mean, this is the least we could do is honor them, and so it was just a lot of laughter, a few tears, and just a phenomenal experience, Dennis.
And they sold it out, the sellout crowd.
They did so, and this is actually the 5th event. Actually, it's been going. It used to be the Boxing Hall of Fame, and it became the National Boxing Hall of Fame. And yeah, they sold it out, and they were obviously thrilled that they sold it out. So it's just fantastic. And Randy Shields was walking towards me right now, so that shows you all this stuff that's going on.
Man, we got lots of good fights to talk about today, beginning with Juan Francisco Estrada got his rematch with I can never pronounce it, Srisaket Sor Rungvisai on Friday. And Rizzy made that count. He avenged the February loss, got a unanimous decision, takes the WBC junior featherweight crown. Scorecards were close, 115-113, 116-112 from the third judge, 115-113 twice. Riz, did you get to see it? How interesting was this fight?
Sorry, did you say the Eastern fight or the Doheny and Roman fight?
Estrada and Sor Rungvisai.
Oh, sorry. You know what? I didn't get a chance to see. I did read about it. It seems like Estrada just learned his mistakes from the first fight and just kind of took him to school a little bit. You know, I saw that Rungvisai was on a lot of the top 10 pound for pound lists, which I thought was a little, you know, a little too early, because he's had a few close decisions that could have went against him. So I didn't think that was, I don't think it was correct to have him on there. But, you know, I think a third fight is probably likely. I think this is kind of a potential overlooked trilogy because, you know, but, I mean, Rungvisai, we saw right away when he fought, you know, when he fought the top level guys, especially when he fought Chocolatito, that he has some serious pop. But if he doesn't have the ability to hurt a guy, usually that doesn't equal a win for him. And I think that's what we kind of saw yesterday. So usually in trilogies, we find that the guy who wins the second fight usually wins the third fight. And I think if, you know, that happens, that's what we'll see. Rungvisai has been around a while. I mean, this is a guy that we kind of only mainstream, I guess, boxing fans only really knew about him maybe a couple years ago, but he's been around, right? He's not a you know, one trick pony or a guy who didn't fight at a top level for quite a long time. But I mean, he is 32, and 32 at that division is pretty old, all considering. And I think he's one of those guys also. I mean, outside of, you know, his last big fight and big win was against Estrada himself about a year ago. And other than that, he fought Roman Gonzalez. So I think I think a tune-up probably would have served him better here, or if he had kind of gradually built to a rematch. But you know, good for Estrada. Estrada was clearly more fresh. As a younger guy, you know, all of Estrada's fights have been very close. He had a very close decision against Roman Gonzalez a few years ago. You know, he beat Cuadras at the end of 2017 to get this shot. So he's kind of been on a tear, and at the age of 29, you know, with everything on his side, I mean, I think a trilogy probably makes the most sense just because I think it'll be an entertaining fight. But I think you probably have to go with Estrada again because he looked pretty good last night.
Yeah, Hearn's talking about putting that next one in that third fight in Mexico too, which wouldn't help Sor Rungvisai. So, and John, you got to see Nonito get his knockout yesterday, right?
Yes, I did, and you talk about an incredible story. You know, about a year and a half ago, he was pretty much done. That's what at least everybody was saying, and he has come all the way back. I mean, who thought he could go all the way back down to 118 pounds and do what he's doing at 36 years old? And there was only a couple of moments where you were like, but I never thought for a second that he was really in any danger. And I didn't put it in my article because I wrote it so fast. But you got to remember that he trained to fight a tall guy, and here he is fighting a short guy, a lot shorter. So that had to have been kind of tricky, and he had to figure him out. But I just thought it was poetic that he hit him with that left hook, because that left hook, we know this. We've talked about his left hook for years, and that was one of those left hooks, one of those sweet, powerful left hooks. And the only fear is, of course, when he lands it like that, is whether the guy's going to get up, because he's so solid with that punch, and it's so perfect, and it's one of those, like that, when he lands it, and the guy was out before he even hit the canvas. So Nonito's such a classy guy, and I can remember a year and a half ago we were pretty much talking about him being done and saying the same thing, that what's he going to do, how's he going to do what he's supposed to do, how's he supposed to move forward, and my gosh, he's done it. So, all props to Nonito Donaire.
Riz, you know what? He's very excited about the possibility that he's going to fight the monster, Naoya Inoue, next. And the guy he just beat was, let's face it, he was a placeholder. Zolani Tete was supposed to have that fight. He came up with some kind of a shoulder injury, so this guy, Stephon Young, stepped in and got knocked out. But Donaire versus Inoue, to me, is interesting because Donaire's back down at the weight where all that power counts for something. Nobody's more explosive than Inoue. This is going to be one of those don't blink fights if it happens.
Absolutely, and I think Donaire's, he's kind of had a career resurgence, but let's face it, he's been pretty fortunate the first couple rounds, right? I mean, His first fight, he beat the prospect with a back injury, and he was down on the scorecards, I think, during that fight too. And then yesterday, Zlani Tete would have been an very interesting fight because we've seen the power Tete has, but again, an injury during the week of, and Donaire, he's regressed obviously from his peak, but not that much. He's still going to win comfortably, and I think experience-wise, Inoue against him is going to be very difficult because the only time we saw him lose is Donaire. That is when he was going up generally against a bigger guy, and fights became harder, obviously. And then he's made his way back down, but since the Walters knockout really set him back. I mean, he got schooled by Rigondeaux. We all remember that. He came back, beat Darchinyan, and then the Walters fight, that was actually a knockout loss. But other than that, he hasn't. He's never looked awful. He looked a little older. He lost to Jesse Magdaleno and Carl Frampton, but both those fights he landed some good shots, and he was in both of those fights. But this is Inoue is completely different. What will be interesting though is because he still puts on a good amount of weight afterwards. What kind of fight is he going to bring Inoue? Because outside the Walters fight, he's never really been hurt. But Walters is obviously, Walters is a much bigger guy. Walters ended up fighting at lightweight, which is, that's a big size difference. So, now Inoue, they call him a monster for a reason because he does have monster power. I wonder, though, if he is not able to stop Donaire, how does he adjust? Because I think he's so used to just knocking everyone else left, right, and center that what does he do if that plan doesn't work? And obviously Inoue is not just a punching power kind of sensation. He is a complete boxer, but he's, at this stage, he's never had to kind of put it all together. He hasn't, the last time he went the distance was 3 years ago, but again, when there's not a guy who's posing a threat on the other side, and you know what, we haven't really seen Inoue have to take a shot either. So what if Donaire lands that left hook? We've seen that left hook really disable fighters. So this is going to be a real test for Inoue. This is I thought Tete would have been a good test because of his awkwardness and his style, and obviously he has some pop too, but in terms of international name and recognition and attention that comes with it, Donaire is that guy. And we saw that, we've seen that in even the Super 6 tournaments beforehand. The guy with the name recognition, he usually bows out in the first round. There are guys who are trying to get back into the mix. Think of, during the Cruiserweight tournament when Marco Huck was there. He's the guy who was already champ and all that, but, he was on the end of his, the downside of his career. But we never saw the guy go into the finals, and that's what Donaire has kind of walked into. And again, it's, he's definitely had some luck, and he's been very fortunate, but, and obviously Inoue still has to take care of his own business in a couple weeks against Emmanuel Rodriguez, which we all expect him to do. We all expect him to have a, crazy knockout shot as we're kind of used to him putting together. But yeah, I don't think it's I'm curious to see what the betting odds are, but, Inoue, his boxing skill should allow him to beat Donaire. I just want to see what happens if he gets caught, and how he reacts, because I don't think he's had to yet. Now, if he does react well and he's able to take a good punch, then Inoue is even scarier than we thought, because not only does he have the boxing skills and the power, but clearly, if he's able to take a good shot from Donaire, he has a chin and heart to deal with everything too. And if he's able to do that, he's going to be even harder and harder to stop. So, but I think, if you see Inoue win, especially if he knocks Donaire out, I think we're going to see him really rise in the top 10 for pound rankings.
John, you and I have been fans for a long time of the Rougarou Prograis, who's been on our show. Great guy, real fun to watch. And yesterday was a coming out for him. I thought he continues to look like a budding superstar at 140. What did you think of him against Kiryl Relikh?
I think that was the best performance that I've seen, Dennis, against Relikh. He was sharp, very sharp. He got clipped with a good shot at the end of the second round, but it was the end of the round. His knees buckled, which is shocking because you never see that. But he recovered really quickly, and Relikh tried to take advantage of that in the next round by being a little bit more aggressive. But the Rougarou just did pretty much everything, and he made a real claim for being the best in junior welterweight. Josh Taylor might have an argument about that, but that's probably who we're going to see if he can get past Barashek next month. But I thought that was the Rougarou's best performance. Regis Prograis, because he boxed a little, he slugged the body shot that he knocked Relikh down with, a beautiful liver shot. Relikh showed his toughness. He was bleeding. He was taking some wicked shots. He kept trying, but his corner just said no. There was just no way. And they constantly talk about boxing. We've all heard this about breaking a guy down. We've heard that, and that was a clean example of how you break a guy down. He's going to his body, then he goes to the head. His defense, and I think he mentioned afterwards he had been criticized about his lack of defense. And he did get hit a number of times where you're like, you don't have to get hit by that, Regis. Well, he's much better now. He's obviously a very good athlete. And as we know, Dennis, from talking to him, he's a student of the game. So he knows about defense. He knows what he's got to do, and he worked on it. And there was a Relikh threw 5 or 6 punches at him, I think, in the 5th round, and he avoided every one of them. Not maybe in a textbook way that you might want. Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. He pulled back a little, which they say is a boo-boo, but a no-no. I'm sorry, but he was, the last time I saw him fight at home, he looked good, but not like what I expected. This fight, he was sharp. He was ready. He really wanted a world title. He was tired. At least I got the impression. The diamond belt was fine, but he wanted the world title. They got so many title belts nowadays, but the world title, mostly every boxer, that's the one they want, is the world title. And he got it, and he earned it. And Relikh is a gutsy guy. He hung in, but you could just see that there's just a difference in levels. And Prograis is just a really good fighter and fun to watch. And yeah, you said great interview. So we might have to say that he is the Ringside Boxing Show's most favorite fighter to interview and watch right now, Dennis. So he is a fun guy to watch do his thing, and he was doing it yesterday.
Well, Riz, I know you're impressed with him because you're already lobbying to see him against Terrence Crawford at 147. That's quite an endorsement.
Well, he said himself he wanted to fight Crawford, but it didn't seem like Top Rank was that interested. And I think that was a major reason for him to enter this tournament. He wanted to really set himself apart from most other fighters, and I think he's clearly doing that. Especially if he's able to beat Josh Taylor. And I think the Super 6 guys, and I think we have to take them more seriously when it comes to the whole pound for pound ranking and all this, because there's guys who pass the eye test. I think Crawford's a guy who definitely passes the eye test, but there's other guys who actually pass the test. And anytime you're clearing a division and winning a major tournament like this, I think you've already done what people are talking about hypothetically. I mean, people are talking about who's better, Crawford or Spence. A guy like Prograis is not going to get into a debate. He's just going to go out there, fight, and win, and say the same thing. I think that's why Usyk to me is such a phenomenal talent and fighter, because he's not going to say, oh, I got to do this. And he's just going to say, nope, I'm just going to go and I'm going to beat all the top cruiserweights, and then I'm moving up to heavyweight. And I appreciate the guys who speak more with their action than their words. And I think Prograis is definitely that guy. And I don't think, I'm not saying, let's not assume he beats Josh Taylor. It's not a foregone conclusion. Josh Taylor is a very solid fighter. But if he does, is there any point of him sticking around at 140? I think he can easily enter the welterweight mix, and because of that, I just think there's better fights out there for him to fight. Now, I don't know if he stays at 140 and, there's some kind of top rank agreement. What if you fight someone like Teofimo Lopez, who's bound to move up soon enough? Teofimo Lopez said he's pretty much going to wait around, this year for Lomachenko, but let's say if that doesn't happen for whatever reason, I would like to see Prograis in the big fights now, because I think he's beating the best guys already. Again, Josh Taylor's still a great fighter. Let's not pretend that it's over. But when you're looking at the other guys in that division that's not in this tournament, Maurice Hooker, I don't think is gonna cause much problems for Prograis. Victor Postel fought yesterday. I don't think he's going to cause much problem for Prograis. So I don't know. I think considering that, I don't know where Mikey ends up fighting after this. Does he stay at 140 or does he go back down? But it's a good spot to be in for Prograis because I just think he's one of these guys who boxing fans are quite aware of who he is. And I think, anytime you're able to, it's such a risk when putting yourself in one of these tournaments, but we've seen the impact that it has for a lot of guys. Usyk went from, a guy who everyone knew from the amateurs to now internationally. People know who this guy is because he's clearing out one division and might fight Anthony Joshua. Andre Ward was also just considered one of those Olympic gold medalist guys, but no one really took him seriously until he won the Super 6. And I right from the beginning, I thought it's not a, Kessler was pretty heavily favored over Andre Ward, which in hindsight sounds pretty ridiculous now, doesn't it? But, so the guys who go through this tournament, I just think they're so battle tested. And I think that's what we're going to see from Prograis. I mean, if Prograis was going to fight Crawford 3 years ago, would Prograis win? I'm not sure. But now, and again, I'm still not sure, but I think I'm more confident picking Prograis now than I was 3 years ago. And I think it's just he's been fighting such high caliber opponents. Now, obviously, there's a size difference and all that stuff, but I would love to see him in one of those big fights because I think he is worthy of that. He is, he is a unique talent. He is a guy who, and funny enough, he reminds me of Crawford in so many ways because both of them, I think we described them as they have a dog in them. They have that dog fighting mentality, right? Like, that guy lands a punch, okay, I'm going to land 3 to return. And he kind of has that same thinking. So, again, it's not a foregone conclusion that he beats Josh Taylor, but if he does, I don't think we need to, wait to put him in any big fight. I just think he's so valuable and is clearly a great fighter. Not a good fighter, but a great fighter. Because you can't win these sort of tournaments that are built around the best in the division unless you're a great fighter. It just doesn't happen. I mean, you can't look at Usyk and say, no, Usyk's an okay fighter. You can't, the guys who are constantly, you're being forced to match up. You don't really have a choice who you're getting matched up against, right? It's not, I'm going to take a tune-up and do this. You're, so much of your outlook, they say styles make fights. You can't choose the style you're about to go up against because it's pending on who wins that other side of that bracket. So I just have a lot of respect for these guys who are in the Super 6, but, the guys who win these tournaments, they set themselves apart. And I don't think, and just like Inoue, if Prograis, if he wins against Josh Taylor and he looks really good doing it, we got to shoot him up on this top 10 list, right, of pound for pound. Because again, some guys pass the eye test, and other guys are actually passing the test. They're not, they're not just going to say, well, I beat so and so, this B+ fighter, so clearly I can beat the A+ fighter, even though the fight hasn't happened yet. Prograis is not a guy who's going to wait for that hypothetical test. He's going to pass it with flying colors and make sure everyone knows about it.
Did either one of you guys get to see Daniel Roman fight TJ Doheny?
I saw bits and pieces. It was a very good fight. Both guys were hurt on numerous occasions. I'd say I wouldn't say it's not gonna. I don't think it'll be fight of the year, but it's definitely an early candidate so far. It was definitely a solid fight.
Okay, and John, you missed that one, right? You've had a busy weekend.
Yeah, no, I didn't get to see that one, and I just gonna comment real quickly on what Riz was saying about Prograis.
Yeah.
That's really true. I mean, to think about him moving up into the welterweight division. I mean, we've already got so much great depth up there, and for him to move up to 147, and that the best point Riz made was the dog in the guy. I mean, as great as he is to talk to, Dennis, as much as we enjoy it, as much as he's got a sense of humor, he's got that mean edge to him. And he's doing things to some fighters that hasn't been done. I don't believe I don't have the encyclopedia type memory that I used to have, but I don't think Relikh has ever been stopped before. But I know he's never been beat like that before, where he was beat down. And Terry Flanagan, I think he might have been knocked down once, and Prograis almost put him away, knocked him down in his fight. So he's beaten guys, and he beat them easy. He's beating guys. He's dominating guys. And when somebody's doing that, that tells you how good they are. And again, the thing with Andre Ward, that's what he did. In the Super 6, even when he had a broken hand, he didn't necessarily dominate Carl Froch, but he beat him easily. He beat Kessler easily. He beat Abraham easily. And that shows the talent levels. And when a guy does that to these other guys who are all, this is no tune-up fight. You know, these are all champions, former champions, high-ranked guys, 1 loss, 2 loss. That says a lot about how good Prograis is. And the thought of him moving up to 147, hey boy, I mean, you know, he's 30 years old, but obviously he's a young 30 because he hasn't really been in any real tough fights. He's 24 fights. But that, like I said, the depth of talent at the welterweight division, oh my gosh. If Travis was here right now, he'd just jump in and go, oh, guys, this is just, and it is. And I hope the boxing fans keep discovering Prograis and these guys, and again, Josh Taylor too, because he is really talented. That is going to be an amazing fight between those two guys. Yeah. So you just got to love it. And again, it's the same thing. We're going to keep banging this drum. These tournaments, they are the way to go in boxing. I'm a firm believer in that. They really bring out the best in the sport. This one almost fell apart. Thank gosh they got it back together and put it together, and everybody's happy now. At least that's what I'm hearing, because they really, really helped the sport.
Okay, so the huge news this week was that Gennady Golovkin had a nasty divorce with his longtime trainer, Abel Sanchez, which I think stunned just about everybody. I said earlier this week that these were two guys who I figured were going to have side-by-side cemetery plots when they die. They were just that tight. Sanchez and Golovkin got together when Golovkin was an unknown. He molded him into the most feared fighter in the sport. They almost seemed like a father and son. I think they kind of considered it a father and son type relationship. But last week, Golovkin apparently told Sanchez that he wanted to pay him a whole lot less. Sanchez felt hurt and insulted, and all of a sudden they were finished just out of the blue. Golovkin says he'll find a new trainer. Sanchez seems bitter, and he seems real heartbroken. They're going their separate ways after 9 years. This is one of the biggest stories of the year, Riz. And what's your take on all this?
You know, it's pretty to say, I think. I mean, Golovkin was pretty respectful in his response and his reasoning. And, you know, it wouldn't be the first time where, you know, a fighter and a trainer just don't work together anymore. But, you know, Abel's reaction was interesting. I mean, I'm curious to see what he was being paid before. You know, I'm not looking at percentage, but actually the final dollar, because, you know, Abel saying his pay percentage got cut in half. But I mean, if the salary is tripled, then, you know, you're still coming out on the positive end, obviously. But I mean, we don't have access to that information at the moment. But I don't know. I haven't really ever heard anything negative about Abel. It's not a John David Jackson scenario that, you know, he's threatening to join the other camp and all that kind of stuff. You know, I know Golovkin's twin brother was a pretty damn good amateur boxer himself. But he was, and there's some people saying, you know, I know he's the one who actually talked to Abel and you know, informed him that they're not. So I don't know if is there blame on Abel's side that he wasn't, you know, that he didn't get Golovkin properly ready for Canelo. I don't know if that's the case. It doesn't seem like it, because I feel like if that was the case, we would have heard about this closer to that time rather than right now. It'll be interesting to see who Golovkin's new trainer is, number one. And number two, I mean, to be honest, I don't think it really matters, because Golovkin is not a, you know, he doesn't, at this age and with his amateur background, I mean, there's no one who's going to completely change his style, right? And this is what he is. Maybe just fine-tune a couple things, maybe make sure at this age, you know, he's not burning himself out with road work, and, you know, maybe find better alternatives for joints and all that, maybe with swimming or whatever the case. And but other than that, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen here. And to be honest, we don't really know how Golovkin is going to look. I mean, to me, clearly, he's aged over the last couple of years. I saw that in the Kell Brook fight. I saw that in the Gennady Golovkin fight, and then we obviously saw that in the second Canelo fight, especially. But I mean, that's why it took that long for that fight to happen. So, you know, now, I mean, he's fighting a local Canadian. He's fighting Rolls on, you know, soon enough. And he should theoretically be able to pass that test, you know, with ease. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Golovkin gets back to the top. There's other fights at middleweight, and I don't know if Canelo's planning to move up after. Seems like a trilogy is probably going to happen, considering they're both at the same network. You're kind of surprised not to. But I can't see at this age, and this stage of his career, and maybe a new trainer. I mean, again, I don't know how much the trainer's going to do, but I can see with Canelo pretty much just entering his prime and Golovkin leaving his prime. I don't think a third fight really is going to have a different result than what we saw. Even though I think the three of us, three of the four of us, Travis saw it the other way around, but us three thought that Golovkin won both times. But obviously we thought the second fight was closer, and the third fight I think we all assumed Canelo was just going to win. So I don't know. I'm curious what the reasoning is, and I just don't think it's just pay. I feel like there's something else there. I mean, again, Golovkin is not, and I don't think it's someone just coming in and taking advantage. This is not a Don King situation. Golovkin's been in this game a really long time. He knows kind of what's going on, and I don't think he's, and again, he's made good money as it is, and now with this new contract, does extra 5%, it doesn't bankrupt him, right? It doesn't really, as far as like his final bottom line, I don't think it really affects it that much. So I think maybe, I don't know, man, I'm wondering if Golovkin maybe just didn't want to do the dumping, right? And then essentially just said, it's not you, it's me, right? Scenario, right? I think that's, well, maybe he just said like, maybe that was his way of not being the one to end it, right? Because I don't think maybe he didn't want to say that I didn't agree with your training methods for the second Canelo fight. And he said, all right, well, here's your new salary. And Abel didn't like that, and it was kind of a way for Glove to, I don't know. It's really, really hard to say. But I'm sure it'll all come out, and I'm sure Abel will shed light on it a little more. And obviously when Golovkin has his first media rounds and stuff, we'll have a better idea. It'd be very interesting to see who's Golovkin's new trainer, though, because we've seen this a lot too. We've seen guys who are with one trainer for a really long time, and then go from trainer to trainer. And that's what look at Kovalev. He was John David Jackson for a good amount of time. Now, I don't blame him for leaving. John David Jackson was clearly just I like playing both sides. But from then, he's used pretty much three trainers since. And crazy as it sounds, Alexander Usyk has used pretty much 4 or 5 trainers in his really young career, which is crazy to think about considering he's undefeated and he still wins. But so put it this way, the next Golovkin trainer might not be his new lasting trainer. It might just be a one fight thing, right? It's gonna be, I think it might be a trial basis. But again, at this point in Golovkin's career, I don't think there's much you can change, and I don't think he's not gonna turn to Mayweather or Hopkins, who's gonna be relying on slick defense to win fights. I don't see that happening, but I mean, he has a skill set to do so. It's early to say, but I'm curious. I mean, who knows? I mean, we see the length of that contract, but again, at this stage in his age, I think Canelo beats him, and if he comes back and he loses another fight, I don't know if he comes back again from that, right? I'm not so sure that he finishes that contract, is what I'm saying. Because to me, he has definitely declined, not drastically, but he's definitely declined. And at this, at the top level, declining 15% is the world. So I guess we'll see in how he looks in his next fight, and we'll see who's in his corner.
John, what's interesting is you ran into Abel Sanchez today at the National Boxing Hall of Fame celebration in L.A. What kind of mood was he in, and also, what's your take on all this?
He was in a good mood. I was a little delicate about it because of what he had said online about feeling like he had lost his son, and that I could understand how that would hurt, where you would be so close to a fighter, and it's not just a fighter, he's like your son. And so I said, look, I don't want to really bother you about that. I just want to talk to you a little bit, introduce myself. And he seemed very upbeat, Dennis. He said he's got a couple other champions that he's training, and he didn't sound, the message he put did sound very bitter and hurt and a little angry. But when I spoke with him, he didn't sound that way. That might have just been his initial reaction because he was probably completely caught off guard. I mean, your comment about these two guys being a team forever. I agree, and I think he probably thought the same thing. And when the word comes that he's getting an offer that he finds insulting, and see, then the thing with me is I'm so old school. I would have been insulted that Golovkin didn't talk to me. He had his brother do it. If that's true, I don't know if that's true, if that's been confirmed or not. But if that's, because to me that's chicken shit. You know, if you got an issue, and we've known each other all these years, I don't want nothing against your brother. He's a great guy, but I want you to talk to me. I want to hear it from you. I don't want to hear it from the brother. So, you know, we don't know. We're all speculating. I just think that it's possible that somebody might have whispered in his ear a little bit about his last performance, like Riz was saying, and maybe he didn't do, maybe Abel didn't do this, maybe Abel didn't do that. Maybe in a sense, Golovkin thought this was a pay cut because he didn't think that Abel did his job. So sometimes when you don't do your job, you get a pay cut. You know, you get put on probation or whatever you want, or however you want to say it. Fighters can sometimes, as great as they are, they want to blame someone else. They don't want to blame themselves, and it's hard to blame yourself when you lose. And I speculated too that perhaps Golovkin didn't like it that Abel Sanchez said, "Yeah, well, Canelo won that fight." Maybe he didn't like that because Golovkin just said during the press conference that he thought he won both fights. Maybe he saw that as a disloyal that Abel Sanchez said. I don't know. It's all speculation. But it's totally shocking, and any trainer that gets Golovkin moving forward, they have to know all this that we're talking about. Obviously, he's declined. He's not going to be a defensive genius, obviously. I mean, he's had 39 pro fights, almost 400 amateur fights. Body's just tired. It makes sense to think about that. You know, 440 fights. Gosh, I mean, that's incredible. So if whoever he gets, see, I find that fascinating, Dennis. Who is he going to get? You know, they always throw around the names we all know, like Freddie Roach or somebody like that. Robert Garcia is another one that I heard that would be.
He threw his hat in the ring right away, didn't he?
Yeah, and that would be fascinating. You know, and I don't know why, I just popped into my head, maybe because I remember when we were talking to him. I think they would be a good team. I do. I think Garcia understands Golovkin, and they would work well together. I don't know why. I have no proof. It's just a feeling I have that they would. Sure, he'd work fine with Freddie Roach, but for some reason I just have a feeling that he'd just blend right in with Robert Garcia's team over there in Oxnard, and they do their thing. And Garcia obviously knows that he can't do much. If you want to do too much, I mean, you've got to remember he's only lost one fight, you know. I mean, it's not like he's lost 4 in a row and you got to trade him in for a younger model. He's lost one fight. Now, obviously, another fight with Canelo, I agree with Riz. I don't think he's going to beat Canelo right now. I don't. Canelo's got a tough one coming up here on Saturday. That one is a tough. But wait, where Canelo is now versus where Golovkin is now in his career, Canelo, he wins it, and he wins it easier than he did the other two. What's sad to me for Golovkin, forget the Abel thing, is that he really he should have won the first fight. He should have got the decision, and then if he lost the second one like he did, very close, he lost it according to the scorecard. I think that would have been easier for him because then he would have been 1-1 with Canelo, and the third fight would have been for all the marbles. But he's got a draw, not a loss, but a draw. And then a loss, and that's unfortunate because I still shake my head when I watched that fight 5 times, the first one, and every time I think Golovkin won it. So I feel bad for Golovkin. You know, I do. That part is because he was a little better, I think, in the first fight than he was in the second. Even though he came on with all that heart, you know, in the second fight, made it really, really close. So. Whatever, you know, there is one thing we've heard a million times, Dennis, that all the great fighters, now I don't know if I want to say Golovkin's a great fighter, but I'll say he's very good. They all have one season. So that's about what Golovkin's going to have hope for when he fights Canelo again. Is that he's got that one more fight in him, and he surprises Canelo. Will it happen? Probably not, but he wants to fight him. It's a pride thing. We all understand it. I was like, I didn't really care too much, but I understand Golovkin's point of view. But again, what I'm waiting for is who's going to train him. That is really going to be fascinating.
Well, you know what? It's been kind of a rough few weeks for Abel Sanchez. Heavyweight prospect Joe Joyce, who was the Olympic silver medalist, left his stable in March to train with Adam Booth. But Abel's going to be okay. He's still got, like you were saying, John, he's got former IBF and WBA cruiserweight champ Murat Gassiev, who's moving to heavyweight. He's got an unbeaten cruiserweight named Arsen Goulamirian, who's 24-0 with 16 KOs. He's got an undefeated middleweight, junior middleweight, I guess. His name's Serhil Bohacek, who is 13-0, all knockouts. And he's got a 154-pound contender, Michelle Soro, who's 33-2. So he's going to be fine, as painful as this was. Okay, you mentioned Canelo-Jacobs. Let's finish up with that. Break it down, Riz. Who's going to win this fight? Is this close to a 50-50 fight?
To be honest, I don't think so. Danny Jacobs, his best performance was a loss against Golovkin, and I don't think since then he's looked very good. So he's looked good, but he hasn't looked great. And Canelo just entering the prime of his career. This is kind of a natural setup for Canelo. I think, it's funny how much credit people are giving Canelo for taking this fight. Well, Golovkin fought Jacobs a couple years ago, right? I feel like Canelo is getting more credit than Golovkin did then.
True.
I think this is a very winnable fight for Canelo. I think he's, especially with the rehydration clause. I just don't, Dan Jacobs has all the tools to win, but I just think he'll win rounds and he'll show flashes. But I don't think he can stay disciplined with his boxing for 12 rounds. I think if he's disciplined enough to just keep the jab in Canelo's face and actually move and box, then yeah, I think he can win. But I just think Canelo's going to find ways. I don't think Canelo knocks him out, but I think he'll find ways to score to the body, perhaps score a knockdown, and come away with a win. Canelo's obviously, like I said, he's just entering the physical prime of his career. So I don't know. I'll be curious to see what Jacob's strategy is. I think we're all assuming it's going to be the same as when he fought Golovkin. Not necessarily the case, though. I mean, we have seen Canelo be outboxed, though, and we have seen how he's very bad at cutting off the ring. Lara made him chase. Amir Khan made him chase. So it'll be interesting to see if Jacobs can make him do that, because Jacobs is definitely a different style than Canelo's had to fight recently. But I feel like Canelo is just too powerful, too strong, too much in his prime. I think he'll score a knockdown in the late rounds and secure a decision.
John, what do you expect Jacobs to do in this fight? What do you think his strategy will be? Who's going to win?
Well, I think his chances are based on whether he can really get Canelo's respect. Okay, he's got his respect, but he's got to be able to make him think twice before he comes in throwing those shots. And I agree with Riz totally. I don't think Jacobs has looked that good in his last few fights. He's looked good and he won and everything, but that Jacobs is not going to beat this Canelo. Canelo is in his prime. He's got the momentum going right now as far as mentally. Also, physically, he's in his prime. I don't see Jacobs. Jacobs might clip him with a shot or two. I just don't think that he could beat him right now. I actually don't think he could have beat him a few years ago. And that's another. Riz has just been nailing it today. Is Golovkin really got no credit for that victory over Jacobs in a sense. Some people thought Jacobs won, and it could be a carbon copy of that fight where Canelo knocks Jacobs down and wins the decision. I think, though, that he's going to win it a little easier. I do. I think he either stops him late or he wins a unanimous decision, like 8 rounds to 4 or something like that. I just don't think that Jacobs will be able to box consistently enough. Box and slug is really what he's going to want to do, but mostly box to defeat Canelo. There's just too many factors going against him right now.
These guys are our expert analysts, Rizwan Zahid, John J. Responti. Great job, as always, fellas. Have a good week, and John, drive carefully. So,
see you guys.
All right. Thanks, fellas. Our British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin, is coming up next, and then we're going to hear an amazing tale from Nate Campbell, right from the mouth of the Galaxy Warrior himself. It's all straight ahead, so do not go away.
Oh, boy, is this great!
If you like the Ringside Boxing Show, You're going to love the website, ringsideboxingshow.com.
What are you doing?
Hi, I'm Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, where since 2008 we have been continuously sponsored by Garcia Boxing, the first family of the sweet science on California's beautiful Central Coast. Trainers Max and Sam Garcia and ring strategist Dean Familton are regarded among the most knowledgeable in the game. And Kathy Garcia, who manages all Garcia boxing fighters, is renowned for her integrity and career guidance, having taken 2 boxers to #1 world rankings. Together they comprise one of the most respected teams in the sport. Learn more by calling 831-261-3214 or send them an email at garciaboxing25@aol.com.
Hi there, it's Paul McLaughlin with your weekly roundup of everything going on in the UK boxing scene at the moment. Well, it's very heavyweight based this week, where British heavyweight Daniel Dubois knocked out Ghana's Richard Alate in the 4th round at Wembley Arena to extend his unbeaten record. After trading heavy blows in the previous rounds, Dubois dropped Alate with a superb right hand, and referee Bob Williams called off the fight in the 4th. Dubois has won all 11 of his fights with 10 knockout victories. Here's Daniel's thoughts after the fight.
Well, it was a firefight, and I was so busy trying to hit him with hurtful shots. I sort of defense left my mind for the first few rounds, and then I thought, you know what, I need to be clever, I need to be smart and pick my shots, and I started picking and started being a bit smart, and there I landed a good shot and caught him on the point where I wanted to get him all night. So I was able to adapt to it and cope with the pressure, but yeah, he clipped me a few times, and a lesson learned. The guy was, rugged and tough and strong. And he swung some real, swung fast punches in. So I just lesson learned again. Just be careful at all times.
While the British Boxing Board of Control said on Wednesday that Dubois has agreed a deal with a fight against another British heavyweight, Joe Joyce, who was ringside in London on Saturday night. So, will that domestic heavyweight matchup happen?
Well, it's an option. I've got a fight in Stevenage on May the 18th, so that's like a good warm-up, and then I should be out again in July, so potentially, I'm going to speak to Frank and my managers, and we'll see what options are out there.
That would be a great fight. Elsewhere, Dillian Whyte says Oscar Rivas is heading to his hunting ground and is braced for a hostile first meeting with his Colombian opponent ahead of their summer showdown. The Brixton heavyweight has announced his next fight against Rivas, a highly ranked rival contender, at the O2 on July the 20th. Rivas has enhanced his reputation as a danger man in the heavyweight division following a brutal knockout of Bryant Jennings in January, and White believes his undefeated foe will make his presence known at their first press conference. We always look forward to a Dillian Whyte fight. They really are the most exciting fights within the heavyweight division at this moment. Elsewhere, we caught up with another British heavyweight and fan favourite after his excellent win last weekend against Lucas Brown. Dave Allen jokingly called out Anthony Joshua. So, on a serious note, what is next for Dave Allen?
July 20th. With the price horses over, I want to keep getting better. I want to get as far as I can get. I don't make as much money as I can and get out. I want 2 or 3 years, and I want to do it properly. If it's a 10-rounder against a Senar Gassi style type of opponent to improve and get better, then I'll happily do that,
Well, I would like to see all of those heavyweights take on each other. In the meantime, gloves up and protect yourselves at all times. Back to the studio.
Good stuff, Paul McLaughlin. Thank you very much, man. You do a great job there from jolly old England. Okay, our featured guest is up next, and we will see you in 1 minute, so do not go away. This is going to rock. I'm Dennis Taylor, co-author of the Amazon bestseller Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward boxing trilogy. Writing this book was a labor of love for John J. Responti and myself. We enjoyed every minute of the process and considered it a privilege to tell the tale of one of the most electrifying boxing trilogies in the history of this sport. Intimate Warfare traces the collision course of Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward from their earliest days through their 3 epic fights, as well as the aftermath of this great rivalry, which culminated in one of the greatest friendships in boxing. Intimate Warfare has received a 4.5-star rating from readers and was endorsed by Hall of Famers Harold Letterman and Joe Cortez and 2-time Trainer of the Year Virgil Hunter. Our foreword was written by Ray Boom Boom Mancini, another one of the greatest blood and guts fighters of our time. Get your copy today at Amazon.com.
Barring a reversal, it appears we are watching Nate Campbell as he finally capitalizes on an opportunity for which he has waited so long. And Juan Diaz's 33-0 record is sinking into oblivion unless he can reverse it.
Diaz is 24 years old, known as the Baby Bull. This child prodigy was on national television at the age of 17 winning fights. Nate Campbell's a grandpa. He's a grandfather in there with the Baby Bull.
But he's a seasoned fighter, though. He's been traveling, boxing in so many different gyms and different styles. So he's doing a lot of experience things, and it's really the maturity. It's not just the age, but the maturity that he's had against a better quality of fighters is showing.
Came in with a plan and has executed it.
Yes.
And by grandpa, I mean his daughter has a child.
Real
not
grandpa.
Not a figure of speech.
Welcome back to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm Dennis Taylor, and you know what? If we wrote a screenplay about a fictional boxer using the true story of Nate Campbell as a model, any producer would probably kick us right out of the office because it's an amazing story. Nate Campbell didn't step into a boxing ring until he was 24 years old, didn't make his pro debut until he was 28, and at that time he had a full-time job as a warehouse manager and a family with 3 kids to feed. That's not usually a template for success in this sport, but the Galaxy Warrior won the IBF, WBA, and WBO lightweight belts from Juan Diaz in that clip from that fight you just heard, and that was at the height of a 49-fight career that spanned from 2000 to 2014 and included fights with Joel Casamayor, Robbie Peden, Diaz, Ali Funica, Tim Bradley, Victor Ortiz, Danny Garcia, Terry Flanagan, just to name a handful. Nowadays, he's the host of a YouTube and Facebook show called Experience the Galaxy, where he talks a little bit about boxing and a whole lot about politics, especially social justice issues that pertain to people of color in America today. Nate, so glad to have you back on the Ringside Boxing Show. It's been about 9 years. How's life been treating you these days, champ?
Oh man, thank you, man. Life is good, man. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I really am.
Well, you know what? Very few athletes, active or retired, become politically vocal. Ali and Jim Brown and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Colin Kaepernick are on that list, and you're another one. These are turbulent times in America, especially if you happen to be a person of color like yourself. So before we talk boxing, I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell our audience about Experience the Galaxy with Nate Campbell. I'm a fan. I'm a 65-year-old white guy, and I admire your social activism. What's the story? When and why did you make a decision to start doing this show?
Oh, man, you know, I've always been socially conscious, and I always have spoken my mind. But John Marthunis, who does the show, we do the show at his house in the studio he put up. He would hear me having conversations when I signed to Don King. Even before then, he would be like, man, you need to talk about this stuff. I said, well, nobody really wants me to talk about it because I have the uncomfortable conversation. I like the uncomfortable conversation. And most people don't want to have that conversation. But I think that since I've started having an uncomfortable conversation, a lot of people have come to the place where they get it. They get what I'm saying. They don't like it all the time, but they get it.
Well, you know, you also venture a little bit into boxing on that show once in a while. And would you call yourself a boxing fan these days? Are you a guy who sits down and watches the fights, or did you kind of move on from that for the most part after you retired?
I'll always be a boxing fan. A lot of people don't really get the gist of who I am when it comes to boxing. I started boxing because I felt like the guys that were boxing at the time, they weren't giving people what people deserved. So I said, and a guy called my bluff. He said, you keep his exact words, you keep bitching and moaning about it, why don't you do something about it? So I eventually did. I said, man, you know, if I'm going to talk trash about what people are doing, why can't I do it better? Or at least go out and show them what I'm talking about. So I do watch. I have certain guys I watch. I don't watch everything because a lot of these fights are, you know what's going to happen before they do it.
Yeah.
And so I just don't. I don't like wasting my time with wasted fights. Fights I consider wasted space.
You know, here's something some people might not realize. You fought Danny Garcia back in 2011. 8 years later, he's still relevant, one of the major players in that welterweight division. What do you think of? Yeah.
I beat him.
I think you did, yeah. And he was 20-0 at the time. I don't know how old he was. He wasn't very old, but you gave him hell.
I was 41 years. I was 40 years old, I think.
Holy crap, man!
39. I was 39.
How many grandkids you got now?
5. I got 5 kids. I have 1 grandson and 4 granddaughters. And I tell you, I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, you know what? I skipped the whole daddy thing. I went right to grandpa. I married a woman who had a son already, and he's a Catholic boy. He uses the rhythm method of birth control, so I got 7 grandkids. Never would have myself.
Rhythm method. I like that. I think look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I want a son so bad. If I find the right woman, she can get it. I'm telling you. I'm using the rhythm method too.
It works great. Oh yeah, it works great. Nate, what do you think of that talent at 147? Spence, Crawford, Thurman, Garcia, Porter, Pacquiao's still in there. How good is that weight class?
It's the deepest one out there. Shit,
yeah.
I mean, it's I'm telling you, it's good.
We gave a quick version of your boxing biography during our intro today, and it's really one of the most amazing stories in the history of the whole sport. Take us back to those early days when you were not only training every day, but I think you were also managing a warehouse full-time for Winn-Dixie to support your family. What kind of challenge was that? What made it worth it?
Well, I was not managing. And the whole reason I started back training was because I kept falling asleep at work. I did. So I would start shadow boxing. I would shadow box to stay woke. And one of the guys named Jeff Hullett, who I call Big Dog, said, well, you guys are pretty fast hands. You say you used to box. You might want to go ahead and take up boxing again because you guys are pretty fast hands. Man, those hands are fast. And I'm like, man, I ain't got time for that. I'm just trying to stay woke at night, because I had been written up. And, just let's get this established. I couldn't lose my gig, man. I was getting paid, and I couldn't lose my job. I just couldn't afford to lose my job. So shadow boxing was what I did to stay woke, and that's how boxing started, whether people believe it or not.
Well, this part of your story has been told a few times. In your early life, your family was a little bit dysfunctional. There was alcoholism. You wound up in foster care system when you were 7 years old. Went to 15 different schools before you turned 17. Became a father at a young age. Those are some ready-made excuses if you wanted them. What kept you from going down the wrong path, or did you go there for a while?
I went there. I was always there. Dude, everybody knows that I was rough. I was a rough kid. See, a lot of people fail to realize something. Boxing for me I wasn't afraid in the ring. There was no fear for me in the ring because at the end of the day, I've been shot at. I've been shot at. I've been through some stuff. So a guy in the ring didn't faze me at all. So I went there. I really went there out and man, if you ask me what saved me, I'm glad my ancestors were looking out for me. I'm glad there was someone that prayed for me. Someone had. I was supposed to be dead. And I know a lot of guys that came along with me that were half as bad or twice as dead. So I'm a product of what they call grace, and I understand that.
Nate, when you started boxing as an amateur at 24, did you have any illusions at the time that you might someday become a great fighter, a world champion?
That was the only goal.
Hmm.
Can you imagine being 24 years old and walking in and telling people, I'm going to be world champion? And I hadn't fought, and I hadn't been in a gym in 7 years? Imagine telling your wife that.
Great point. What was the reaction at home?
Look, bro, I don't know if you understand what it's like to be a dude that I made the bulk of the money in the house, and for her to even think that I would ever take any time off from work that could hurt the finances of the family, that just wasn't happening, Pimp. I had to do something. And this is just my amateur career. Mind you, I didn't have my first fight till I was 25.
Huh.
And I won the Sunshine State Games, which is like Florida's rendition of the Olympic Games. They have all these different things. And I had to make a vow to this woman that if I lost or looked bad, I would quit. So I won my first 2 fights by knockout. I had to.
Huh. How did you manage your time back then, working all night at the warehouse and then trying to find time to train too? You must have been tired all the time.
I was never tired. It was something that I wanted to do. My father told me something when I was a kid. My father never could train, show me to do anything. So he said you got to find something you love and do it well. And if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And boxing was something I loved. My greatest push was I wanted to make my father's name better than mine, make my father's name good. My family had a bad name, so I didn't fight for wealth. I didn't fight for fame, and I still don't. I fought so that my father would be remembered as something other than whatever people knew about him in the time before. So it was never about me. It was always about my father first, his memory, and my daughter's name. I wanted their name to be good. I wanted their name to be something other than trouble or bad. Yeah. Because when I was growing up, somebody said, you one of them Campbells. And that was a knock on me. And took me doing what I've done up to this point for my name to mean something. And I wanted my daughter's name to mean something also.
How many amateur fights did you have?
30-6 was my record.
Wow. So your early pro career was totally on-the-job training, wasn't it?
I don't know. It wasn't about being on the job training. I had to know what I knew when I got there because I came in as the underdog.
Yeah.
I fought 2 undefeated guys my first 5 fights. 7-0 with 5 knockouts, 5-0 with 3 knockouts. I was brought in to lose.
Huh, wow.
I'm respected for that reason. I'm respected as much as any other guy in boxing for the reason that I've always had to go about it the hard way. I came up the hard way.
Well, the incredible part is you won your first 23, including, looking at your record, you beat Carlos Navarro and David Alcia, 2 very solid guys.
I beat Casamayor, too. Y'all know that.
Yep. That was when you were 23. Casamayor, for people who might not know that much about him,
he was really God at that point.
Yeah, he was a Cuban. He'd been a world super featherweight champ by the time you fought him.
He was a gold medalist.
Gold medalist. He'd been in 7 world title fights. He got a unanimous decision, but it was a great fight. How good was Casamayor? And looking back,
he taught me.
You beat him that night, didn't you? That must have been so frustrating.
I beat him. I gave him a double concussion, the lacerations, bruised liver. I got in that ass. But at the end of the day, I had to deal with what the consequences was. What did I learn in that fight?
Yeah.
I learned what depression was. I learned what depression was. I learned that a man's psyche greatly affects his physical output more than anything else. I cried a lot. I was hurt a lot. It was hard to face my daughters because I couldn't reconcile them taking that from me.
You know, what some people might realize, too, might not realize is that you had 3 title shots before you became a world champion. You lost by TKO to Robbie.
I only had 1 title shot.
Okay.
1 title shot.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I had you had a loss by TKO to Robbie Peden. I guess that was that for the vacant IBF super featherweight belt?
That's the only fight, but by the time I fought Peden, I couldn't make the weight anymore, man. I was dying at the weight. Can you imagine me at 130 pounds? Could you imagine me at 135?
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, I was done. I was done. If you look at there are pictures I have of myself, and it's like, if I'd have ate any less, I'd have been eating air.
Wow. So then in 2008, you had the fight that we played the clip from. You went to Cancun to fight Juan Diaz, the Baby Bull, undefeated. He's WBA, IBF, WBO lightweight champ. You were 4-1 betting dog. The crowd was hostile all in for Diaz. Yeah, and you ended up winning a split decision. What kind of moment was that for you to win that fight?
First of all, I was mad it was split.
Huh.
When they said split decision, like split decision, who gave him the fight? But you know, it was an emotional moment for me. Everybody said I couldn't do it.
Yep.
I wouldn't do it, and they almost took it from me. That was the moment I knew that for the rest of my life, they had to call me champion. Because once you're a champion, you're always a champion. They can never take that from you. That is something that will follow me to my grave.
Yep,
but
that's right. That's going to be in your obit, that you were a world champion. Yep.
Yeah.
That'll be the first line.
That was a moment in my life when I realized that, for me, it was more than just being champion when it got to that place. I wanted to be the very first champion for John David Jackson because it was supposed to be that way. And when I lost to Peden, my goal was to become champion and be champion for John David Jackson. And I never forget riding back to the hotel. And I made a statement to John. I said, I want to thank everybody for coming out and support me. But tonight something happened that was supposed to happen. I said, John, you're going to have many other champions, but there'll never be one that can say he's the first besides me. And I am the first, and that is a big deal for me. I'm John David Jackson's first world champion. He's had about 5 or 6 others, but I'm the first. And if you know anything about the hierarchy of the way stablemates go, or in the lineage of stablemate, I am the true OG of John David's stable. And, man, I still love John. I still talk to him. He's still a guy I call when I need help, trying to get through something. If I fall in love, I call him, and he's gonna be there to stand up when I get married again. If I ever have another kid, he'd be the godfather. He's that guy for me, man. He is more than trainer, more than friend. He's family. It's just those are things I can just never change or take back.
Hey, what do you remember about the crowd that night in Cancun? They were chanting "Baby Bull, Baby Bull, Baby Bull, Mexico, Mexico."
Torito. I never forget that. And every time they say Torito, I lean in to Juan Diaz and tell him, if they keep screaming, I'm gonna beat your ass worse. You better tell them to shut up. I would just say stuff to him. What I remember about that night was I would not be denied. I refused to be denied. This was my time, my place, and it meant more to me. It just meant more to me.
Yeah, after that, you beat Ali Funica, and that was a title defense, I think. And then you had a 4-fight winless streak. no contest against Tim Bradley, losses to Victor Ortiz, Walter Estrada, Danny Garcia. That takes us to 2011. You were already 39 years old. Looking back, how much did you really have left at that point in your career during that streak?
I could still fight today, but the problem is people didn't realize something. I had a pinched nerve in my back.
Oh.
I fought my whole career with a pinched nerve. My entire career. Had it since I was in my 20s.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah, think about it. Think about my right foot was about a third of an inch shorter than my left leg. And I fought my whole career like that.
Oh, my God. Nothing hurts worse than a pinched nerve in your back.
Dude, I would sneeze. I would sneeze and throw my back out.
Oh.
And nobody understood what it was. I've been going through therapy for the last 6 years to get it to where I can walk, I can rock, I can do anything I want to do now, but it's taken years of therapy to get there. I can fight in 8. If you give me a 6 months to get ready, I'll fight anybody in the world.
Huh. Wow. You know, they've got a cannabis tincture now that you just put a couple drops under your tongue, and that pain goes away. It is amazing stuff. Incredible stuff.
But you know, everybody knows I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm good. I don't need it. I don't need it. So for me, I'm enjoying being retired, but don't let the right guy call me out. I'll punch him in the face in front of his mama. So you actually fought 3 more years after that streak. Were you in it for the money at that point, or for the love of the sport, or were you still enjoying the gym and the road work? You know what? I beat the number 6 guy in the world in those 4 years.
Hmm.
When I lost to Terry Flanagan, I realized that everybody was going to keep shrinking me down to 135, and I couldn't afford the right camp to get there because I need a strength and conditioning guy. I need things I don't have, and I couldn't afford. So it was best for me to walk away from the sport before I got myself hurt trying to go down to the weight.
Yeah. Well, how tough was it for you to call it quits as an active fighter in 2014? How tough was it to walk away from the ring then?
I would have rather given you my right arm. I would have rather given you my right arm. There was nothing worse in my life that I've ever experienced other than the day that I had to say that I don't know how to explain it to you other than it was the most painful. When I lost my mother, I expected to lose my mother because she's been sick for a while.
Yep.
Not at that moment, but when I lost my career, when my career had to end, it was the most painful moment of my human life. My human existence has never created a moment that painful.
You know, I've been doing this show for about 10 years. I hear that once in a while from fighters. I hear it quite often, things like that. Was it tough for you to figure out what to do with your time after you quit?
You know, to be honest, I still haven't figured out what to do with my time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the hardest part for me is I don't think I'll ever love a woman the way that I love boxing because she'll never be as honest with me as boxing was with me. No woman will ever be that honest. And it's sad to say that. I want to be in love. I want to love someone the way that I love boxing. But I want her to love me the way boxing loves me. The way that boxing, if boxing was a woman, she was the most honest. She would be the most honest woman that you ever ran across. She never lied. She was always honest. She was always truthful. She never gave you anything less than what you gave her, and she always gave you more. And I don't think that there will ever be a woman that will do that for me because boxing isn't selfish. Boxing is boxing. It's the realest place you can ever be. You can't be more real than boxing. And my greatest fear is that I'll never find someone that loves me to that place. And I'll be honest with you, I'll take an ugly woman that loves me that way. Boxing, but the thing about boxing is that woman you know you have no business dating, but she treats you so fucking good that you can't leave her alone.
Have you stayed active in the sport in some capacity since you retired? Do you work with fighters or anything?
I hate fighters, man. I hate them. They don't. I hate them. They don't want it no more, man. Everybody wants to be world champion, but they don't want to give world champion effort.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they love it. I love boxing. I don't say loved. I love boxing. Boxing, I love. I made a statement to someone that I would rather box than have sex. And I mean that. I would rather box than have sex.
Who's the best fighter in the world right now? Who's the guy at the top of your list?
I don't know. I watched a lot of them, but none of them have proven themselves. In order to be pound for pound, back in the day, you had to beat a guy that was good, really pound for pound. Now they just do it because who has the best Instagram following, Mm-hmm.
Are you impressed with Lomachenko or Campbell or Spence? Anybody like that?
I'm impressed with Spence, but Lomachenko is he's a waste of airspace to me.
Really? Why do you say that?
I don't know. Dude, come on, man. He's been given the path to success. If he wasn't good as he is, it'd be a shame. The only time they put him in and he got his ass lit, they never put him in with a guy that fought like that again.
Yeah.
He's more protected than the crown jewels. My bad. Too far? Did I go too far? Okay. He's more protected than the guy with 2 condoms on. Is that too far too?
Well, there's an image. Okay. Hey man, you're a Florida resident, Nate. How frustrating are Florida politics for you, particularly the voter suppression efforts and what's happening right now there?
Man, I don't give a damn if they never vote again. The vote has never helped black people. I don't know why black people think that the vote helps. The vote don't help shit. You voted. All these folks voted for Hillary Clinton, who I did not like, did not want. First of all, you give me nothing to vote for, then get mad because I don't vote. You know what? You give me a choice between a retarded man or woman and a cockeyed man or woman, both that have a limp and a lisp. Neither one can read or write, but I got to choose one. Think about it.
Anybody impress you at this point right now for the next election?
The Democrats should kill themselves. They throwing everybody they can. I'll guarantee this here. Come back at the end of the next election and Trump will be president again.
Man, I hope not.
Oh, why? Why? What has he done? What has he done any worse than the 45 guys before him? Obama did nothing but ignore black people for 8 years. Just so you know, Joe Biden was a part of the ignoring. Tell me what Trump has done that's been worse than every other guy before us. Don't worry, I'll wait.
Oh man, I could talk to you for 2 hours. I don't have time for that.
But if you talk for 2 hours, in 2 hours I change your mind just by showing you exactly how misguided you are. Don't tell me what you feel. Tell me what's real.
All right, Nate. Hey, Nate Campbell, the Galaxy Warrior.
Hey, thank you for having me.
He defied all odds. He won 3 world title belts at 135. He was one of the most exciting fighters in the sport from 1990 to 2014. Great to talk to you again, champ. And, man, thanks for making some time for us today on the Ringside Boxing Show.
Thank you for having me, man.
All right, Nate Campbell's TV podcast is on YouTube and Facebook. It's called Experience the Galaxy with Nate Campbell, and you know what? It's pretty damn compelling.
Thank you, man.
You're very welcome, man. Drive safely.
Thank you.
All right, Nate Campbell on the Ringside Boxing Show. Hey, do you like this podcast? Do us a solid. Post the Ringside Boxing Show on your social media platforms and help us grow. Also, if you haven't yet discovered the best boxing news website on the Internet, you got something to add to your bucket list. We update RingsideBoxingShow.com 365 days a year with the hottest news and biggest headlines every single day. You'll be amazed by what you see. RingsideBoxingShow.com. Check it out right now. We want to thank our expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwan Zahid, my partner John J. Responsi, for their contributions that they make every week to this show, as well as our British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin. And another huge thanks to today's featured guest, always compelling, former world champion, Nate Campbell, the Galaxy Warrior. And thank you, Ringside Nation, for being a part of our worldwide audience again today. I'm Dennis Taylor. Keep your chin tucked, and we'll talk to you again next week on the Ringside Boxing Show.
Well, it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass. It's a bad day, so you better get off of my back. You might get cold cocked if you cross my path. It's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass.